We will be here today, two of us, Raquel and me. Raquel will answer back in Portuguese to all of you who have some questions in the end. And I will do the presentation, of course, in English. I hope that's okay. So briefly, in this next 10 minutes, just let me check. We will go through the case study that we will present today here, and that it's a part of the paper. We will go a bit into depth of the framework that it was conceptualized even before this case study in previous experiences, and then we will look into the case study which is actually implemented educational co-design program within a curriculum. And we will make a brief overview of the learning outcomes and some highlights how this developed new initiative and possibly future work. Okay. So briefly, a fact sheet on the topic of this co-design program. So it was developed and implemented in 2018. It was a month project, 1 month and a half. It was implemented within curriculum inside the school, Artistic and Vocational School Árvore in Porto, Portugal. It involved 25 students of age from 15 to 17 years old. So they were like a first cycle or first grade students at the secondary education. In total, we had 5 sessions of in total 10 hours in a classroom of graphic design. Okay. And how did we do it? I cannot see the chat, so I will look into chat after the presentation, if that's okay. So how did we do it? Firstly, this project or this co-design program was actually an initiative made by the informal platform called Lab of Collaborative Youth that had developed previously a conceptual framework on how to develop co-creation projects with youngsters, with students of design or non-design students at the basic education and secondary education. And this meant that in this process, we would explore the purpose of design and how design, or in this case, co-design, can help build learning and citizenship experiences in peer and intergenerational collaboration. And on this basis, and I will not go completely in depth with this topic, you can read it afterwards in the paper, or you can find it on our website. It was very important how we set up the process. So it had to be related to observing each student and their different social roles within the educational or learning process. It had to be dealt with the process of understanding both individual and collective expectations, needs, compositions, dynamics, interactions, so on and so forth. And then it had to be connected to the process of seeing co-design as a tool. And the brief that was made to the students as a proposal for collaboration was because it was installed in the curriculum within the learning module called visual identity, and in the subject called graphic design. So we came with a proposal that to learn about this project, we would like to have a collaboration with this class of 25 students, and they would be in charge to develop a visual identity of this platform. And this would help them then to understand how youth-led co-design practice can be staged as a kind of a methodology that they could later use, and also to understand that this can be also a process in which co-creation of their learning also builds up and also involves their citizenship experiences, because this was a socially responsible project. This was done in 5 sessions, as previously mentioned. In the first month, we did sessions that involve, of course, the sensitization, the briefing, the orientation, introduction, understanding each other each other's roles. So there was a teacher, there were facilitators from the platform, which are NGO representatives or design researchers. There were students, and then there was a school and the whole neighborhood and the overall concept of the city. But yes, on a micro scale, it was a classroom. And in this classroom, we went through the process. We did the ideation, we did validation, prioritization, building the concept and reframing the concept, and then the students did the prototyping. So from the larger group, they went to the smaller units, smaller working groups, and then they formed back to the large group that actually built one solution, one single solution. So we started with several conceptualizations and several mood boards and several other types of tools for mapping and creating the concept. And then each time, in each session, the students developed a single solution, and that single solution was validated and evaluated by the students. In this process, we observed some synergies between the concepts that were not necessarily so obvious at the beginning, especially from the eyes of the students. So seeing on the left, on the screen on the left, you have some of the roles of students that were expressed in the process, and on the left, sorry, and on the right, you have a list of competences that we wanted to tackle and we wanted to address in this process. And these were the competences that were also evaluated by the students themselves and by their peers. And in the middle is the process that they were developing as a community of co-designers or community of co-learners. And we could see that, for example, for them as a young citizen, the learning to learn and co-authorship was not an obvious link. So in this process, they observed these characteristics and doing a role of a citizen that meant also learning about themselves and building their own self-efficacy. And then from the role of learner, they also observed the role of learner/student. They also observed that they can have also social responsibility and collaboration skills involved, and that they can also make their own citizenship practice through co-design. And from the role of designer, interesting part was they also can engage and understand better their role within the collective. So they really went deeper in their introspective. So they were doing kind of self-awareness, self-discovery processes as well. And in this process, of course, as it was part of the curriculum, it was of course expected that they will receive a grade for this, and the grade was meant to be an self-evaluation process. So it was composed of self-evaluation in majority, and then also peers had a chance, when they were working with other peers in smaller units, also to evaluate the role or the efforts and effectiveness of the others. So, for example, there were questions on how do you evaluate your colleague, what did you learn with them, and they had to analyze each of these characteristics in their own self-reflections. This meant a few things for each of the roles or each of the participants. So we had three types of participants, as I said: teacher, a student, youngster or learner, and the external facilitator. From the teacher role, of course, this meant that in this process we have to have some willingness and ability to coach each student on how to build this self-awareness, self-discovery, and to build their self-efficacy, not just as a designer in design education, but also as a learner, as a citizen, as a peer, as a friend, as a colleague. And of course, each of these things would not be possible if also the teacher would not recognize and value the process of co-creation that can be also intergenerational collaboration. From the youngsters or students role, this meant that there has to be some kind of willingness and ability to acquire co-design experience in order to do this kind of self-learning, self-awareness and self-discovery, and to build the efficacy. And that also meant that they would have to be, because they were mostly doing peer collaboration, it also meant that they have to be open and responsive to each other's feedback, that they can jointly manage time, resources, and everything else that was included in the process. And they observe this process as something that build their capacities in this teamwork and self-management as well as the group. And from the practitioner's facilitator's role, this meant that we need to have the openness and empathy with the local community, and to integrate ourselves in a way that we become also the members of the team, and that we can have a kind of a different role that also builds that also can contribute to building a strategy of knowledge transfer. So the mutual empowerment that can happen also between student, teacher, or the external facilitators and the classroom, including teacher and students. And after this, after some time, there was another project at school. And the task here was actually to create graphics for the school van and to advertise the courses that school has. And the students of this class in the second year of the school, they got this task. And what was interesting, that they knowing this experience they had just a few months ago, they had this kind of instinct or an understanding how they could actually do kind of self-organization and self-management of this process. So they actually did use the methods and the organization that they experienced in the first example, that is the case study we presented today. And they managed in 3 sessions of 4 hours, so they had 12 hours in total to build their project and to develop a solution. Okay, and so this case study is just one of the 4 co-design programs that we already had, and we would really need to invest. This is kind of a self-reflection right now. We would really need to invest time to disseminate and share previous projects, because there is a lot of material that we would like to share, and this is one of the opportunities that we have right now today. We would also like to collaborate with other researchers and projects, so that's why we are also here today presenting this, because we would like to invite everyone who has some idea or need to develop this type of projects to come to us and to talk to us, and it would be good to discuss it. And then of course there's always space for improvement, and we would like to develop new programs and new methods and tools that correspond to the new students or new youngsters that we will work with. And there are two reasons why we're also here. It's that we would like to make this type of approach, this pedagogic scenario, more popular among the teachers, among the academia as well, and among researchers. And also because we really believe that this is the way to do youth-led co-design practice, and also to develop methods and processes in which youngsters can be included to develop youth policies. Okay, thank you so much. I hope I didn't forget anything, and I'll